My family threw me out to die in the endless winter. Now I'm reborn as the baby they forgot, and I remember every second of freezing to death. The cold was a living thing that year. It didn't just freeze, it ate, consumed wood and stone and flesh with equal hunger. By the third month of the endless winter, our ancestral manor had become a tomb pretending to be a shelter. Food dwindled. Servants fled or died. The noble family of Arden, my family, became something smaller, meaner, desperate. I was 16 when they decided I was the problem. You're the weakest link, my father said. Not cruelly, that would have required feeling. Just practically. Like discussing culling livestock. 3 servants left. Food for maybe 2 more months. We stretch it further without you. I stared at him across the great hall, trying to find the father who'd once lifted me onto his shoulders, who'd called me his little star, who'd promised to always protect me. He was gone. In his place sat a stranger with my father's face and empty eyes. Surely, we can find another way, I whispered. I can work harder. Eat less. I'll do anything. The decision is made. Father gestured to the guards. The last 2. Loyal only because they had nowhere else to go. Take her to the gates. Mother wouldn't look at me. She stared at the fire, face blank, hands folded in her lap like she was attending a tea party instead of her daughter's execution. My older brother, Dane, studied his nails with exaggerated disinterest. He was 19, strong, useful, the heir they'd keep at any cost. And my younger sister, Alara? She smiled. A small, satisfied smile I'd seen before but never understood until that moment. The smile of someone watching a rival eliminated. The smile of a predator who'd just won. I'd spent 16 years loving my family, trusting them, believing that blood meant something. In that moment, I learned the truth. Blood meant nothing. Survival meant everything. They didn't even give me a coat. The guards, Higgins and Martin, men I'd known since childhood, couldn't meet my eyes as they pushed me through the great oak doors. The last warmth of the manor washed over me, then vanished as the doors slammed shut. The cold hit like a physical blow. It was deep winter, the worst in a century. Temperatures had hovered around minus 30 degrees Celsius for weeks. Snow drifted higher than my head in places. The forest beyond our gates was a white maze of death. I stood on the steps in my indoor clothes, a wool dress, thin slippers, no gloves, and waited to die. But I didn't die. Something in me refused. Some core of stubborn survival that I hadn't known existed. When the shaking started, I didn't curl up. I started walking. The last thing I saw as I looked back was Alara's face pressed against a frost-covered window. Still smiling. Still satisfied. I memorized that smile. Then I turned and walked into the forest. The first night, I found a hunter's cabin. Abandoned like everything else now. I broke the frozen lock with a rock and collapsed inside. No firewood. The previous occupants had burned it all, but the walls blocked the wind. I huddled in a corner and shook until dawn. The second day, I ate frozen berries from a bush, chewed pine needles for the vitamins, drank melted snow. My body was shutting down, but I wouldn't let it. I wouldn't. The second night, I found a barn. Animals long dead, but hay to burrow in. I slept pressed against a frozen cow, stealing what warmth I could from its massive corpse. The third day, I found the bunker. It was hidden beneath an old hunter's cabin, deeper in the woods than I'd ever ventured. A trapdoor under a rotting rug led to stairs carved into the earth. At the bottom, a door. Metal. Solid. It was unlocked. I pushed it open and stumbled into warmth. Not just warmth. Heat star. A wood stove still burning, fed by some automatic mechanism. Shelves stocked with canned goods. Barrels of water. Medical supplies. Blankets. Clothing. Tools. Weapons. Someone had built this place. Someone had prepared. And then someone had never come back. I found the owner's body in the last room, a skeleton in a chair, a rifle beside him, a note on his lap. Asterisk, if you're reading this, you're welcome to what I built. The sickness took my family. Now it's taking me. May this place serve you better than it served us. Asterisk. I buried him in the frozen ground above. It took me 3 days. I didn't care. He'd saved my life. He deserved that much. Then I moved in. I lived in the bunker for 7 months. 7 months alone, watching the world freeze solid. 7 months surviving on food that would have made my family kill each other. 7 months planning what I'd do when spring came, when I could return to the manor and show them exactly what their weakest link had become. I read every book in the bunker's small library. I learned to maintain the wood stove, to purify water, to set snares for the few animals still alive. I grew stronger, harder, colder. At night, I dreamed of Alara's smile. In the dreams, I always woke up before I could wipe it off her face. Spring never came. The winter never ended. It just got colder and colder until one night even the bunker couldn't keep me warm. The wood stove sputtered. My breath frosted in the air. I piled every blanket I had on top of myself and still shook. I fell asleep shivering and dreamed of warmth. Sunlight, green grass, a child's laughter, then nothing. I opened my eyes to sunlight. Warm sunlight, streaming through a window I didn't recognize. Familiar ceiling, familiar walls, familiar room. My room. In the manor. Before the winter. Before everything. I sat up so fast the world spun. My body was wrong, smaller, softer, younger. I looked at my hands, a child's hands. 7 years old, maybe 8. A maid burst in, smiling. Awake at last, little one. Your mother was so worried. That fever took 3 days to break. But you're fine now. Thank the stars. I'll fetch her immediately. She left before I could speak. I stumbled to the mirror. Stared at a face I barely recognized. My face, but younger. Innocent. Unscarred by cold and betrayal. And slowly, piece by piece, memory returned. The expulsion. The cold. The bunker. The death. Then earlier. The years before. The way Alara always watched me. The way Dane never defended me. The way my parents looked at me like I was already gone. I remembered everything. And I knew, with absolute certainty, that the endless winter was coming again. But this time, I had something I didn't have before. Time. 8 years before the first freeze. 8 years to prepare. 8 years to find that bunker again, stock it, secure it. 8 years to watch my family rot in their gilded manor while I built something they'd never touch. The door opened. My mother entered, arms outstretched, face wet with relief. My darling. You're awake. I was so frightened. I let her hug me, let her cry, let her believe I was still her sweet, innocent child. Behind her, in the doorway, Alara appeared. 8 years old, just like me now, watching with those same curious eyes. She smiled. The same smile she'd worn when they threw me out. I smiled back. This time, I thought, I know what that smile means. This time, I'm ready. This time I win. The years after my rebirth were a performance. I became the perfect daughter. Obedient, quiet, unremarkable. I let Alara shine, let Dane dominate, let my parents ignore me in favor of their more promising children. I smiled when they mocked me. I nodded when they dismissed me. I played the role of the forgettable middle child so perfectly that they forgot to watch me at all. But every moment they weren't watching, I was working. At 9, I discovered the old hunter's cabin during a walk. The bunker was still there, untouched, waiting. The skeleton was still in the chair. I buried him properly this time, in a grave I marked with stones. Thank you, I whispered. I'll make your bunker mean something. At 10, I began stalking it. Not obviously, never obviously. I stole small things. Canned goods from the pantry, blankets from storage, tools from the workshop. I hid them in the woods, then moved them to the bunker piece by piece. At 11, I found the geothermal maps. They were in the manor's library, hidden in a book no one had opened in decades. Maps showing warm pockets deep underground, places where the Earth's heat rose close to the surface. Places the winter couldn't reach. The bunker was built above one of those pockets. I didn't just want to survive this time. I wanted to thrive. I wanted a fortress so secure that when my family came begging, I could watch them freeze at the gates. By 12, I had enough supplies for 2 years. By 13, I had 4 years' worth. By 14, I'd found the entrance to the geothermal vent. With years of work, I could tap into it. Heat the bunker forever. Make it a paradise while the world above froze. By 15, I'd started digging. The shortages started that year. Not the real winter, that was still 2 years away. But smaller things. A bad harvest. Supply chain disruptions. My father pacing, muttering about preparations and contingencies. Dane started hoarding food in his room. I knew because I watched everyone now. Every habit, every secret, every weakness. Dane's was greed. He'd die protecting his hoard while others starved around him. Alara grew sharper, meaner, watching everyone like a predator assessing competition. Her room was filled with notebooks, observations, strategies, plans. She was always calculating, always positioning herself for maximum advantage. My parents grew distant from each other, from us, from everything except their own fear. They'd break before the winter even started. I saw it clearly. And me? I smiled, ate less, gave my portions to them with generosity that made me look selfless while they grew weaker. They didn't notice that I never seemed hungry. Didn't notice that I slipped away at night. Didn't notice that while they fought over scraps, I'd already secured a feast. I'm worried about you. The voice came from behind me as I returned from the bunker one night. I froze, heart hammering, then turned slowly.
A boy.
Maybe 16. Dark hair, sharp eyes, a face I didn't recognize. Who are you? New groundskeeper's son. He stepped closer, studying me. You go to the woods every night. You come back with empty bags that were full when you left. You're hiding something. I don't know what you're. The winter's coming. His voice dropped. Not this year. Maybe not next. But soon. I can feel it. And you, he pointed at me. You're the only one here who isn't scared. The only one who isn't hoarding or fighting or panicking. That means you're either crazy or prepared. I said nothing. I don't care which. He held up his hands. I just want to survive. And if you know how, if you've been getting ready, I want in. I studied him. Looked for lies, for traps, for the betrayal I'd learned to expect from everyone. Found none. What's your name? Run. Run. I made a decision. Follow me. But if you betray me, I'll leave you to freeze. And I mean that literally. He nodded. I'd expect nothing less. I led him to the bunker. Ren's reaction to the bunker was everything I could have hoped for. He stood in the main chamber, turning slowly, taking in the shelves of food, the barrels of water, the weapons, the tools, the life I'd built. You did all this? His voice was hushed. You're 15. I started at 9. I watched him carefully. 6 years of work. 6 years of stealing, planning, digging. This is everything. Why? He faced me. Why prepare so much? The winter might not even come. It will come. My voice was flat. I know it will. And when it does, everyone who mocked me, ignored me, dismissed me, they'll come crawling to my door. And I'll be ready. Ren studied me for a long moment. Then, he nodded slowly. I believe you. He walked to a shelf, ran his fingers over canned goods. My father drinks. Beats me when he's drunk. My mother died 2 years ago. Fever, no medicine, no help from the manor, because we're just servants. I've been waiting for something. Some sign that there's more than this.
He looked at me.
You're that sign. I didn't know what to say. In my first life, I'd been alone from the moment they threw me out. In this life, I'd planned to be alone again. But looking at Ren, seeing the same hunger in his eyes that I felt in my own heart, I realized something. I didn't want to be alone anymore. Then help me, I said. Help me dig. Help me stock. Help me build something that can survive anything. I held out my hand. And when the winter comes, you'll have a place here. Forever. He took my hand.
Squeezed.
Forever. Over the next 2 years we grew. Renew people, servants, villagers, outcasts like us. People the manor had used and discarded. People with nothing to lose and everything to gain from a second chance. We recruited carefully, one by one, testing loyalty, watching for signs of betrayal. Each new member had to prove themselves, not with grand gestures, but with small acts of trust. Keeping secrets, showing up, working through the night without complaint. By the time I turned 17, we had 23 people. 23 people who owed their survival to me. 23 people who died before betraying the bunker. 23 people who looked at me not as the forgotten middle child, but as their leader. We expanded the bunker together. Tapped into the geothermal vent. Real warmth, constant warmth, a pocket of spring in the frozen earth. Built sleeping quarters, a kitchen, an infirmary, a school for the children. Stocked enough food for 50 people for 5 years. When the shortages hit the manor, we barely noticed. When the panic started, we were calm. When the winter finally came, we were ready. The endless winter began on my 17th birthday. I woke to cold sharper than anything in my memory, and I remember dying in cold like this. The bunker's geothermal system kept us warm, but I could feel it through the walls. The hunger of the cold. The patience of it. The world above was dying. Rin found me at the periscope, watching the snow fall. "They'll come," he said quietly. "Eventually." "I know. How will you decide? Who to let in, who to leave?" I'd been asking myself that question for 8 years. 8 years of planning, preparing, waiting for this moment. I thought I'd have an answer by now.
I didn't.
"I'll know when I see their faces," I said. "When I see who's changed and who hasn't. Who's learned and who's still the same." Ren nodded. "And if they haven't changed?" I looked at the snow, the cold, the memory of a 16-year-old girl dying alone in a world that didn't care. "Then they'll get what they gave me." The first month we heard nothing. The bunker hummed with activity. Everyone had jobs, cooking, cleaning, maintaining, teaching. Children played in the geothermal warmed corridors. Adults shared stories and meals and quiet hopes for spring. I watched them all and felt something I'd never expected. Peace. In my first life, I died alone. In this life, I'd built a family. Not by blood. Blood meant nothing.
By choice. By trust.
By shared survival. I'd won. I'd actually won. Then the knocking started. Day 34 of the endless winter. I was in the geothermal vent, checking the systems, when Rin found me. His face was strange, troubled, uncertain. "They're here." I knew who he meant before he said it. I'd known they'd come eventually. The manor couldn't last this long. Not with Dane's greed and Alara's scheming and my parents' paralysis. I followed Rin to the surface. Through the periscope, I saw them, a ragged group huddled at the bunker's entrance.
6 people.
My family, all 4 of them, plus 2 servants I recognized. Higgins, one of the guards who'd thrown me out, and Martin the other. They looked like ghosts. Father was barely recognizable, gaunt, frostbitten, his noble bearing replaced by desperate hunch. Mother clung to him, face buried in his shoulder, shaking constantly. Dane's hands were wrapped in bloody cloth, frostbite damage, severe. He'd lose those fingers. Maybe more. And Alara. She stood apart as always. Still proud. Still watching. Still calculating. But thinner.
Sharper.
Her eyes darted everywhere, assessing the bunker's entrance, looking for weaknesses, advantages. When her gaze passed over the periscope, over me, I could have sworn she paused. Just for a moment. Like she sensed someone watching. I stepped back from the scope. "What do you want to do?" Rin asked. I thought about the girl who'd frozen alone. The family who'd thrown her out. The 8 years of preparation, of waiting, of wanting this moment. "Let them wait," I said. "Let them feel what I felt." They knocked for hours. At first, with authority, demanding entry, claiming noble rights, threatening punishment. Father's voice, weak but still trying to command. Then with desperation, pleading, bargaining, offering anything for warmth. Mother's voice cracking, sobbing. Then with silence. Just knocking.
Steady.
Hopeless. Dane, probably, using what was left of his ruined hands. I watched through the periscope the whole time. Watched them huddled together for warmth. Watched them argue. Alara gesturing sharply, father shaking his head, Dane slumped against a wall. Watched the two servants whisper to each other, then separate slightly from the family. By midnight, the knocking stopped. By dawn, they were still there.
Alive.
Waiting. I went to the surface alone. When the door opened, they didn't recognize me at first. Why would they? I'd been the forgotten child, the weak one, the heir of nothing. 8 years old when they last saw the real me, the me before the fever, before the replacement. They'd spent those 8 years ignoring a stranger wearing their daughter's face. Now I stood before them in thermal gear, healthy, warm, powerful. A woman they'd never bothered to know. Alara's eyes widened first.
You.
It's you. Hello, sister. I smiled. The same smile she'd given me at the gates, 16 years ago. Cold out here, isn't it? You have to let us in. Father's voice cracked, desperate. We're dying. We'll all die.
Yes.
You will. I leaned against the doorframe. Eventually. Just like everyone. You can't. Dane stepped forward, then stopped as Ren appeared beside me, rifle visible. Others from the bunker emerged behind us, my army of outcasts, my real family. You're our family. You owe us. I owe you nothing. The words came out calm, steady, final. You threw me out to die. You gave me no coat, no food, no chance. If I hadn't found this place, I gestured at the bunker, I'd be frozen bones in the woods. And none of you would lose a single night's sleep. Mother sobbed. Father's face crumpled. Dane looked ready to kill. But Alara just watched. Studying me. Assessing. Always calculating. What do you want? She asked quietly. Want. I laughed. I have everything I want. Warmth.
Food.
People who actually care about me. What could you possibly give me that I'd need? Revenge. Her eyes met mine. You want to watch us suffer. You want us to beg. I want you to know. I stepped closer, close enough to see the frost forming on her eyelashes. I want you to know, in your final moments, that I survived. That I thrived. That everything you have, everything you are, means nothing compared to what I built without you. I turned away, walked back to the door. Wait. Alara's voice cracked.
Please.
I was 8.
I didn't understand.
You understood enough to smile. I looked back. I saw that smile then. I see it now. You're still calculating, Alara. Still trying to find the angle. But there is no angle here. There's only cold, and death, and the consequences of choices made 16 years ago. I stepped inside. Jin-ho. Ren's voice, quiet. Are you sure? I looked at my family, frozen, desperate, finally understanding what they'd done. Yes, I said. I've been sure for 16 years. The door closed between us. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at the periscope, watching them, waiting for them to leave, to die, to do something. They didn't leave. They built a shelter, pitiful thing, just blankets stretched over branches, and huddled inside. Higgins and Martin took turns gathering wood for a small fire. The family argued constantly. I could see it in their postures, their gestures.
Blame.
Accusation. Desperation. On the 3rd day, Dane's hands turned black. On the 5th day, he died. I watched his body freeze. Watched them argue over whether to bury him or use him for warmth. Watched Alara win that argument. They buried him. Barely. Just snow piled over the corpse. On the 7th day, Martin left. He walked away from the group, toward the forest, toward certain death. Higgins tried to stop him. They fought, briefly, weakly. Martin won. Disappeared into the white. On the 10th day, Higgins died in his sleep. Mother found him in the morning. Her scream was thin, reedy, barely human. She'd been screaming for days by then. On the 12th day, Father crawled to the bunker door. I went to the surface alone again. Father knelt in the snow, too weak to stand. His eyes were glassy, unfocused. Frostbite had taken his nose, his ears, most of his fingers. Please, he whispered. Your mother. She's dying. She'll be dead by nightfall. Let her in. Let her. Why should I? He looked up at me. For a moment, something like recognition flickered in those dead eyes. You're my daughter.
No.
I knelt to his level. I'm the daughter you threw out to die. The daughter you didn't give a coat. The daughter you forgot existed until you needed something from her. I wasn't. You were scared. I finished his sentence. I know. Fear makes people do terrible things. But here's the thing about fear, Father. It's a choice. Every moment, every decision, you choose what to do with your fear. You chose to sacrifice me. You chose to save yourself at my expense. And now, I gestured at the frozen wasteland. Here we are. He stared at me. Tears froze on his cheeks. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry. I believed him. That was the worst part.
He meant it.
In this moment, freezing to death outside the daughter he'd betrayed, he truly regretted everything. But regret wasn't enough. It was never enough. I forgive you, I said quietly. His eyes widened. Hope flickered. That doesn't mean I'm letting you in. I stood. Forgiveness is for me, not you. It means I'm done carrying the weight of what you did. It means I can move forward without you haunting me. But it doesn't erase what happened. It doesn't change that you made your choice and now you live or die with it. I walked back to the door. Wait. His voice was barely a whisper.
Please.
Your mother. Tell her I loved her once. I didn't look back. Before she stopped looking at me. Before she let you throw me out. Tell her that girl died in the cold, and the woman who replaced her doesn't owe her anything. I closed the door. Father died that night. Mother followed 2 days later. I watched them both through the periscope. Watched Alara sit alone beside their frozen bodies. Watched her not cry, she never cried. Watched her simply wait. On the 19th day, she started knocking again. Not like before, desperate, pleading. Different. Measured. A pattern. 3 knocks, pause. 3 knocks, pause. Over and over. I ignored her for 3 days. On the 4th day, I went to the surface. Alara looked terrible.
Starving.
Frostbitten. Half dead. But her eyes were still sharp. Still watching. Still calculating. You came, she said. Why shouldn't I let you freeze like the others? Because I'm not like the others. She met my eyes. I never was.
No.
You were worse. I was 8. Her voice cracked. First time I'd heard anything but calculation from her. I was 8 years old, and I watched our parents favor you. Love you.
Choose you.
Every time there was food, you got the best. Every time there were gifts, you got the most. Every time. Stop. I held up a hand. You're blaming me for being loved? For things I didn't control? I'm not blaming. I'm explaining. She slumped against the bunker wall. I watched and I learned. I saw that love was a resource like food or warmth. Limited. Something to fight for. So I fought. I made myself indispensable. I made them need me. And when the winter came, I made sure they chose me over you. I stared at her. This girl, this woman, had been playing games since childhood. Games I never even knew existed. Do you feel better? I asked. Knowing you won? I didn't win. She laughed, hollow and broken. Look at me. I'm freezing to death outside a door you control. You have everything, warmth, food, people. I have nothing. You won. You just don't know it yet. What do you want, Alara? Same thing you wanted when you were 16. Her eyes met mine. A chance. I brought her inside. Ren nearly killed me for it. Half the bunker agreed with him. They'd heard the stories.
They knew what her family did to me.
They couldn't understand why I'd risk everything for the sister who'd smiled while I was exiled. But I understood. Alara wasn't like our parents. She wasn't weak or fearful or desperate. She was a survivor, like me, twisted by the same family, the same dynamics, the same poisonous environment. We'd just chosen different paths. Maybe in another world, we could have been allies instead of enemies. Maybe this world could be different. The first month was hard. Alara was suspicious of everyone, and everyone was suspicious of her. She watched constantly, looking for threats, advantages, weaknesses. old habits from a lifetime of fighting for scraps. But slowly, she changed. It started with small things. Helping in the kitchen without being asked. Teaching the children basic reading. She'd always been clever, always learned fast. Sitting with the elderly when they were lonely. Then bigger things. Volunteering for dangerous surface expeditions. Sharing information about the manor's hidden resources, supplies we hadn't found, locations we hadn't explored. Saving a child who fell into a crevasse, pulling her out with her own hands. By spring, if you could call it spring, when the temperature rose to -20 degrees Celsius, Alara had become part of the community. Not trusted exactly. That would take years. But accepted. Tolerated. Even by some liked. One night, she found me in the geothermal vent. Can't sleep? Never can. I gestured for her to sit. Too many memories. We sat in silence for a while, listening to the hum of the earth's warmth. I remember the night they threw you out, Alara finally said. I watched from the window. You walked into the forest and didn't look back. I looked back. I saw you smiling. She flinched. I know. I've spent 8 years trying to forget that smile. She pulled her knees to her chest. I was jealous of you.
Consumed by it.
You were everything I wasn't, loved, cherished, safe. I thought if you were gone, I'd finally have what you had. Did you?
No.
She laughed bitterly. I had nothing. Our parents were hollow shells. Dane was a monster. The manor was a tomb. I spent 8 years ruling over corpses and calling it victory. She looked at me. You were the lucky one. They threw you out and you found this. She gestured at the bunker. Real warmth. Real people. Real purpose. I didn't know what to say. In my first life, I died alone, believing I was unlucky. In this life, I'd built something from nothing, believing I'd won. Maybe winning and losing weren't so simple. Can we start over? Alara asked quietly. Not as sisters, I know that's broken, but as people who share blood and history and might eventually share something better. I thought about it. Thought about the girl who'd smiled while I froze. Thought about the woman who'd saved a child. Thought about the possibility that people could change. Yes, I said. We can try. The endless winter lasted 3 more years. 3 years of survival, of growth, of building. Our community expanded. More survivors found us. Were vetted. Were welcomed. The bunker grew to accommodate them. The geothermal system kept us warm. The food held. Alara became one of our best scouts. Her sharp eyes and calculating mind, once used for manipulation, now served the community. She found caches of supplies, identified threats before they reached us, negotiated with other survivor groups we encountered. We never became close. Too much history for that. But we became something. Allies. Colleagues. 2 people who'd survived the same family and built different lives from the wreckage. When the winter finally broke, when temperatures rose enough to grow food on the surface again, Alara was there beside me, watching the first green shoots emerge from thawing ground. What now? She asked. I looked at our community, our people, our home. Now we build something new, something better than what came before. I glanced at her. Together, if you want. She smiled. Not the smile from the window. A different one. Real. Uncertain. Hopeful. I'd like that. 20 years later, I'm old. Not ancient. 47 isn't ancient, but old enough to see the results of choices made long ago. Old enough to watch children I helped raise have children of their own. Old enough to look back and understand what it all meant. The bunker became a town. The town became a city. The city became the capital of a new nation, built by survivors who'd learned that blood means less than choice. I'm called the founder now. Sometimes the matriarch. Titles I never wanted, earned by surviving when I should have died. Alara is my second in command. We've never spoken of love. That word is too small for what we've built. But we've spoken of respect, of trust, of shared purpose. That's enough. Run married, one of the survivors he rescued during the 3rd winter. They have grandchildren now. He still calls me boss sometimes, and I still pretend to hate it. The manor is gone. Melted, scavenged, reclaimed by the earth. Sometimes I walk the grounds where it stood, remembering the girl who died in the cold and the woman who rose from her ashes. I don't hate my family anymore. That weight lifted long ago. I pity them, trapped by their fears, destroyed by their choices, unable to become something more. But I also thank them. Without their betrayal, I'd never have found the bunker, never built this community, never become who I am. The heir of nothing became the heir of everything. Not through blood, through choice.